Oh, that St. Paul. I do what I do, and I don't do what I don't do.
Yeah, we got a lot of time in prison.
Weary. That's the word that really caught my eye in today's gospel reading. You don't hear it much anymore, but gosh, what a great word that described the landscape, at least for me during these days. It seems like I'm just weary. That's like supercharged tired. I I could get tired the first 5 times my sons would say when we were driving to Colorado, are we almost there yet? By the time we reach the border, I'm weary. Are we there yet? So Jesus talks today about easing weariness experienced by people during his lifetime. But if you pay attention to our culture, that's still what the world needs today. This is not proof, but it is an indicator. A quick search of my playlist from the 1970s is proof. Simon and Garfunkel sing, "When you're weary and feeling small, you need a bridge over troubled water." The rock group Kansas sang these words, "Carry on, my wayward son, there'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't cry anymore." John Denver sang to his lover in the song, "My Sweet Lady," "Close your eyes and rest your weary mind." Three Dog Night sang the lyrics, "But when she gets weary, try a little tenderness." Weariness. We are a tired people. I mean, we carry heavy burdens of always being connected. We have this digital existence that always seems to having warnings or alerts. I've got to delete some of the alerts off my phone because I can't sleep anytime there's a thunderstorm. Because I don't know how many. I mean, there's the City of Shawnee. There's Forewarn on Channel 4. There's the neighborhood app. I mean, all these things go off all night long. No wonder I'm weary. Many of us feel this need to constantly produce things. Even when you're retired, it seems like there's this demand that, oh, don't get too comfortable in your retirement. You still got to be active. You still got to be a contributing member of society. Then there's the anxieties of the hurting world. Sometimes you just need to turn the TV off or watch Monk reruns rather than the news. And then on top of all that, we have those personal weights that come along in our times of grief or health scares or relationships, which sometimes are tough to negotiate. Many of us feel like we're running on empty. And when I think of being weary, I feel it's much more than just mental fatigue or physical exhaustion. It's a crushing, paralyzing state of the soul. And that paralyzing state of the soul starts draining the mind and the body. So when Jesus says today, "Come to me, all ye that are weary and carrying heavy burdens, I will give you rest." I mean, it feels soothing. It sounds exactly what the doctor ordered. But then if you're like me, tension starts to creep in. And you remember that a few chapters later, Jesus says something that on the surface sounds entirely different. He says, "If anyone to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me." I mean, how on earth do you square those two things? How can Jesus promise an easy yoke and a light burden in a couple of verses, and later on demand that you pick up a cross? Which is it, Jesus? Are you saying it's a spiritual vacation to follow you? Or are you saying it's a total sacrifice to follow you? Now, I think the secret is understanding what a yoke is, how it actually works. Jesus is not saying add more burdens or rules or disciplines upon all the ones you already carry with you. He isn't saying place my plow upon you and go to work. He doesn't say plow, he uses the word yoke. And in the ancient world, many of you may know this, but in the ancient world, a yoke wasn't a tool to punish an animal. It was to help the animal. It was a wooden harness designed to share the load. A yoke was built usually for 2 oxen. There was a seasoned, older, stronger ox that would be paired with a younger, less experienced one. And so that master ox dictated the pace, and it absorbed the brunt of the weight, and it guided the direction. So when Jesus says, "Take my yoke upon you," he isn't saying, here's a whole new set of rules and expectations for you to carry on your own. He is saying, harness yourself to me. Walk at my pace. Let me carry the heavy side of the beam. We serve a God who volunteers to get into the mess of our lives. And think about it. Not only are we yoked to him, he is voluntarily yoking himself to us. The contrast Jesus is drawing is not between working or doing nothing. He's contrasting 2 different ways of moving through the world. First, we can carry exclusively the yoke of the world. That's the yoke of self-reliance, of perfectionism, of performance-based religion, and the relentless demand to constantly prove to yourself and to others your worth. That yoke is very heavy, and it will eventually break you. And then there's the yoke of Jesus, and that's the yoke of grace and humility and reliance on others and relying on God. And that brings us to the cross. Taking up your cross and taking up Jesus' yoke are not opposing concepts. I'm suggesting that perhaps they're the same thing. The cross we're asked to pick up is not self-torture and suffering. The cross is a willingness to die to our own ego, our own need for control, and our desperate attempts to save ourselves and our reputations and our egos. When we lift Jesus' cross, we actually have to lay down the exhausting baggage of the world. By surrendering our need to be the masters of our own destiny, we slip into the yoke of Jesus. And there we discover this paradox of the gospel. The cross is heavy only when we try to carry it alone. When we carry it with Jesus, it somehow helps set us free. Christianity is no longer than a performance-based religion. It's not like I got to get things right. I have to have everything in order. I have to be perfect. It becomes a partnership. It becomes a relationship. Have you ever watched the Kentucky Derby or one of those other major purse races? I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but racehorses are typically paired with another horse, and it's called a companion pony. And it provides a calming presence as they are taken to the gate. The companion pony escorts the racehorse to the gate, and that calming presence helps them get rid of some of that nervous energy before a race. The companion pony does several things. First of all, racehorses are, as you can imagine, highly energetic, and they can become overstimulated and agitated by crowds and the noise, the anticipation, the fancy hats. And a steady companion pony acts as a way of keeping the horse relaxed. The companion pony escorts the racehorse to and from the starting gate. It provides a buffer and keeps the horse from breaking loose before the competition. Ponies help lead the racehorses through the warm-up exercises, allowing the younger, more excitable horse to move and catch its breath without carrying a rider. Racehorses and companion ponies are figuratively yoked together. And that's another nice metaphor to think about when we think about putting on the yoke of Jesus. So for us 21st century disciples, learning from Jesus means learning to resist the frantic rhythm of our culture. It means accepting that we are creatures with limits and that those limits are a gift because they really ultimately force us to rely on God. Jesus never promises to magically erase the difficulties of life. He does not promise that the road will be flat, but he promises that you will never walk it alone. You do not have to generate your own strength anymore. In the yoke of Jesus, we can sense the gentle and humble embrace of God. And it's there we can find rest, not just for our bodies, but for our souls. Indeed, his yoke is easy and his burden is light. Amen.